bracket featuring the Husky competitors like Bear 409, who made it to the finals with this startlingly tubby transformation. Yes, that is the same bear. There's still time for fans to cast their votes before Chubby Champ is named tomorrow. News 3 at 5 starts right after this.
Right now at 5, it's been over a month since record-level flooding happened in Madison. Why officials say we're still not out of the woods.
We're learning more about the crash that killed 20 people in New York. We'll give you an update on the investigation.
And after sweeping the Rockies, the Brewers return to Milwaukee. What one player is saying about this special run.
This is News 3 at 5.
Thanks for staying with News 3. It's been more than a month since the storms caused all that flash flooding and brought our lakes to historic levels.
Our lakes are still very high, and with more rain on the way, the city is warning that we could set a new record for precipitation accumulation this year. Amanda Quintana is at Brittingham Park with the details. Amanda?
Yeah, well, this is one of the areas where we're seeing some of the flooding in the streets here. You can see some of the people that live here along the lake still have their sandbags out from the historic flooding that we had before. And Mayor Soglin says, do not put those sandbags away. The flooding threat is not over.
The water was always 2 or 3 feet lower than it is right now.
When David Molenhoff bought his home along Lake Monona 48 years ago, he never thought flooding would be an issue until this August.
For all 48 of those years, we were absolutely dry in our basement. But this year, the water got 5 inches above our basement.
More than a month later, the lake level is still high. This Sky 3 video showing Lake Monona 2 inches above the 100-year flood level.
And if you look out there and you see that little rectangular sign at the end of the pier, that's how high the water was.
Molenhoff says this summer's flooding should be a wake-up call.
I worry about the kind of flooding catastrophe that we can have throughout the city of Madison, and especially in the low areas of the east side, okay?
With more flooding over the weekend and more rain on the way, preventing that is something the city is trying to address.
And our concern that we were not out of this has unfortunately been realized.
Mayor Paul Soglin is asking for an engineering team supported by Madison and Dane County to look at what can be done to control the lake levels.
Given the present engineering, can the lakes be kept at a lower level?
Molenhoff anxious to know that answer too.
The kind of circumstances that we all experienced in August is probably the new normal.
The City Council will be introduced to that resolution to create that engineering team at their next meeting. Now, Dane County has already approved to support that team. Another thing that Mayor Soglin mentioned, be sure to keep the fall leaves out of the storm drains. That can really help prevent some of this flooding as well.
All right, Amanda Quintana live at Birmingham Park. Amanda, thank you. Another thing that could slow down some of this flooding is if the rain would stop for a while. Let's get a look at your first alert weather with Chief Meteorologist Gary Canalti. Gary?
Well, the good news is in the long term, it should. In the short term, it probably won't, though. And that's just because it's been so mild and humid. The air has a lot of extra moisture in it. Let's start out by taking a look at visible cloud track. You can see lots of clouds to our west, but some sunshine over southern Wisconsin, allowing temperatures to get up into the upper 70s. We do have an alert day in the forecast for tomorrow for the potential for some heavier rain that could lead to some localized flooding, as well as the potential for some severe weather with high winds and hail being the main threats. As we look at Doppler track, things are pretty quiet right now. A couple of thunderstorms in eastern Iowa have been fizzling as they push towards southern Wisconsin, but we'll have to see if any more showers and storms pop up. There actually is a marginal risk of severe thunderstorms tonight, mainly to the north and west of Madison, but tomorrow there's a slight risk for areas west of Madison and a marginal risk across the rest of southern Wisconsin, mainly in the afternoon and evening. There's a flood or flash flood watch in effect for western Wisconsin, eastern Minnesota, and eastern Iowa into early Wednesday morning. Low temperatures this morning started out in the upper 40s to low 50s, but the southerly winds kicked in. High temperatures so far have been around 80 south and east of Madison, and in the upper 70s north and west of Madison, until you get 60s up north of the Dells. And current temperatures are near those highs of the day. Here in Madison, we're still at 78. Janesville right now at 82, and those winds continue out of the south. As we check out our forecast first, look for temperatures to only drop into the middle 60s by tomorrow morning. We'll see some scattered showers and thunderstorms, mainly north and west of Madison for tonight. Another chance for showers and thunderstorms during the day tomorrow with a high of 79. That's your first alert forecast.
All right, thank you, Gary. We're stuck with flooding concerns right now, but if you recall, this time last year, we were dealing with a tornado.
It's been 1 year since that rare October tornado touched down on East Washington in Madison, damaging trees, power lines, and buildings along the way. Our Madeline O'Neill has more on how those affected have rebuilt. Maddie?
Eric and Susan, last year's tornado was considered strange because not only does the city rarely see that kind of weather, but October is also one of the least active months for tornadoes in the state. The tornado touched down on October 7th of last year for about 10 minutes and traveled around 4 miles near East Wash. It damaged businesses like the Four Seasons Car Wash, where it blew out the back walls of 3 bays there and lifted the roof. Insurance helped the car wash rebuild, and it's been fixed since this spring. But it's a story the owner won't forget.
Kind of get an eerie feeling when the tornado hits and you see the devastation. But again, as long as nobody got hurt, that's the main concern.
The William T. Evu Clinic and Access Community Health Center got its canopy torn off by the tornado in the midst of renovation. The clinic tells us that it's just completing that renovation and now. Last year's tornado was an EF0 with winds up to 80 miles per hour. And while there was plenty of damage, no one was hurt.
Yeah, we all remember it well. Madeline O'Neill in our news center. Maddie, thank you.
A 19-year-old woman was injured early yesterday morning after being hit by a drunk driver on Madison's near west side. Madison police say the 19-year-old was crossing Regent Street at North Orchard Street around 2:20 a.m. when she was hit by an SUV. The driver of the SUV, a 60-year-old Madison man, was arrested on tentative charges of causing injury by operating while intoxicated.
A man who police said is a violent offender was arrested after pointing a handgun at a senior home resident. Madison police were called to Sherman Glen Apartments on North Sherman Saturday morning. They say a resident of Sherman Glen found 32-year-old Bryant Williams sleeping on a bench outside her building. She asked him to move along. When he didn't, she took out her phone to call 911, and police say that's when Williams knocked her to the ground, pointed a gun at her head while threatening to kill her. Williams took off. Officers chased him, eventually arresting him on the playground at Sherman Middle School. Police said during the chase, Williams tossed what they say was a very real-looking BB gun. Williams is also a suspect in other recent burglary and violent offense cases.
As the investigation continues into what is being called the deadliest transportation accident in the U.S. in nearly a decade, the company that owns the limousine involved in a crash Saturday that killed 20 people has been ordered to shut down. Police say the limo came to a hill and did not stop at a stop sign at the corner, instead barreling through an intersection and plowing straight into a parking lot, fatally hitting 2 pedestrians and slamming into an empty SUV before ending up in a ditch and killing all on board the limo. Federal records show Prestige Limousine underwent 5 inspections and had 4 vehicles pulled from service in the last 2 years.
That vehicle was inspected by the New York State Department of Transportation last month and failed inspection. and was not supposed to be on the road.
New York officials also say the driver who was among those killed was not properly licensed.
The Wisconsin Dells police chief who wrote a letter on behalf of a man facing a repeat drunk driving charge has been suspended. The Wisconsin Dells mayor telling News 3 that Police Chief Jody Ward's 2-week suspension starts Thursday. Ward was suspended after writing a letter on behalf of 56-year-old James Connors, who was arrested in August on suspicion of his 6th OWI charge. Connors is the co-owner of Nick's Bar in the Dells. The criminal complaint said Connors failed field sobriety tests. His blood alcohol content almost 3 times above the legal driving limit. Connors was then arrested.
Madison Postal Worker Union members rallied today to bring awareness to the possibility of the U.S. Postal Service privatization. The workers oppose President Trump's proposal to remove the Postal Service's obligation to deliver mail to all people. If privatization moves forward, they say delivery companies could decrease service or charge more in rural areas. Organizers say that receiving mail is a right of all Americans.
Everybody needs to be aware that the post office is under attack and under jeopardy of disappearing, and it's everybody's right, and everybody needs to call their congressman or vote or whatever it takes.
Postal worker protests were planned today across the country.
The Brewers have returned to Milwaukee after winning Game 3 of the National League Division Series in Denver against the Rockies. They swept them 3-0, outscoring them 13-2 in the series. Milwaukee's now won 11 in a row, and during yesterday's victory, Keon Broxton, Orlando Arcia hit late home runs. Broxton says everyone is contributing.
Any given night, one of the guys can take over the team and bring us a W, no matter if it's a pitcher, a catcher, a shortstop, center field, right field, doesn't matter. We got a solid lineup every night, and it doesn't matter who's in there. We're going to have a good chance of getting a W.
All right, so the Brewers will either play the Braves or Dodgers at home. Game 1 of the NLCS on Friday. The Braves, at last update, lead the Dodgers. This is Game 4 of the NLDS. That score, we believe, 2-1 in the 5th inning in favor of Atlanta. And there is more to come on News Read 5. Up next, we'll have a reality check on the race for Wisconsin governor.
And if you plan on voting in the November election, we'll tell you how you can get a free ride to the polls.
And on Wall Street, the Dow up almost 40 points, with the NASDAQ off 52.5. The S&P lost a little more than a point to start the week. We'll be right back.
Get more
Welcome back. An ad in the race for governor tonight from Tony Evers seeks to take credit for some positive education outcomes.
Political reporter Jessica Arp takes a look in tonight's reality check.
It's no surprise that State Superintendent Tony Evers would tout his record on education, but he also goes after Governor Scott Walker's.
Do you trust Scott Walker on education? He's the politician who cut $800 million from our schools.
This needs clarification. Governor Walker did cut funding to public schools in Wisconsin in his 2011 budget, signing a budget that cut about $784 million from public education. But Walker says he gave schools the tools to deal with those cuts by passing Act 10 to change state union laws and allowing districts to require teachers to contribute more to their pension and health care plans. He did increase funding for schools in the years that follow, but public school funding didn't get back to 2010 levels until 2015.
Tony raised graduation rates to nearly 90% as state superintendent, and he advanced career and technical training.
This also needs clarification. During his tenure as state superintendent, student graduation rates increased about 3 percentage points from 85.7% in 2009 to 88.6% in 2017. Who is responsible for those numbers? It's up to you to decide. Governor Walker is touting the same statistic in his own ad. That's a similar story when it comes to career and tech ed in the state. Evers has promoted a number of initiatives as state superintendent. Walker has also put career and technical education initiatives in his state budget. I'm Jessica Arp with this News 3 Reality Check.
If you have an idea for a reality check, send it to us at realitycheck@channel3000.com.
And early voting underway here in Wisconsin. Whether you choose to vote now or on Election Day, a month from now, a local nonprofit wants to make sure you have no trouble getting to the polls. Common Cause driving Wisconsin voters to the polls. This year, they have even more volunteer drivers, and those drivers are also responsible for making sure riders are prepared to vote when they get there. They'll make sure everyone has an ID that's acceptable for voting. And if a person needs to register at the polls, they'll check for a proof of residence document as well.
We are not picking and choosing who we share this information with. We make sure that the people that we're working with are nonpartisan. We do have a couple of political parties on our list, and we just indicate that they are a political party, but I have confirmed that they're willing to give rides to anyone who needs one. That's the only way that they can be on the list.
We have a full list of the services offered by county and city up on our website, channel3000.com. Just search free rides in the search bar at the top of our homepage.
Scientists are warning that if drastic action is not taken, climate change could reach crisis levels in about a decade. Scientists say if greenhouse gas emissions continue at the current rate, the atmosphere will hit a breaking point by 2040. UN researchers warn that extreme drought, wildfires, floods, and global food shortages are on tap if nothing is done. Scientists say nations need to boost the use of renewable energy like solar and wind power significantly in the next decade, and coal and gas plants must be equipped with cleaner technology.
And it has been a warm start to the work week. Chief Meteorologist Gary Canalti, and it's going to stay that way for a couple days, Gary.
Yeah, at least through Wednesday, and the humidity levels are also high too. So when the temperatures are warmer, the humidity levels can increase, and unfortunately that leads to better chances for heavier rain. Let's start out by taking a look at an alert day that we have in the forecast for tomorrow, and especially tomorrow night. Showers and thunderstorms are in the forecast. Some of those could produce heavy rainfall, and there's even the potential for some severe weather as well, with high winds and hail being the main threats. Now, over the last 48 hours, looks like about 1 to 2 inches of rain has fallen from Madison westward. Some heavier amounts in excess of 2 inches, in some cases as much as almost 4 inches down toward Rockford, Illinois. The farther north and west you go, the lesser the amounts will be, or have been, but the additional rainfall appears to target that area a little bit more. In fact, you can see the first patch of showers on Doppler track mainly heading up around the La Crosse area or up toward Toma, and showers and some thunderstorms in parts of Iowa, targeting more the western portion of the state, but especially farther to the west into Minnesota and Iowa. Now, there is a marginal risk of a severe thunderstorm this evening across southern Wisconsin. If a heavier storm can get developed in the warmer and more humid air, it's possible it could bring potential for an isolated strong to severe thunderstorm. Tomorrow, the severe weather threat is a little bit higher. A slight risk over southwestern Wisconsin, a marginal risk elsewhere for some isolated severe thunderstorms, along with any thunderstorm that could produce locally heavy rain. And you can see the computer model indicates that about a half-inch of rain or so from Madison to the south and east, but anywhere from 1 to 2 inches of rain over the northwestern part of our viewing area. And that sharp cutoff, could shift westward or eastward a little bit. So don't just, look at those numbers and say, well, Madison's out of the woods. It's possible some heavier rain is possible here. And you can see flood watches are in effect for much of western Wisconsin, much of southeastern Minnesota, much of Iowa. Those lighter shades of green, those are river flood warnings. And you can see just how many rivers are at or above flood stage because of the recent heavy rains, and any additional rainfall is not going to help. The sunshine in southern Wisconsin has warmed temperatures up. You can see the live view from the Queen Bee Radio Skycam. More cloud cover in southwestern Wisconsin, although there are a few breaks in the clouds. The WISC Skycam shows some blue skies overhead mixed in with the clouds, and the Edgewater Skycam in downtown Madison showing a little sunshine mixed in with the clouds as well. The almanac for today shows that our low temperature this morning started out at 52, but our high temperature has been 78 so far. And as we look at the current conditions, we're at that high for the day of 78. Winds are out of the south at 16, and the dew point temperature up to a sultry 65 degrees. Now, while we're watching the threat for rain here, there's Hurricane Michael down by the western tip of Cuba. That will head northward toward Florida, but eventually will join forces with the weather system coming through our area and take all the rain off to the east of us, and then eventually shift our winds around to a more northerly direction, allowing cooler air to move in, especially as we head toward the latter part of this week. So a flood watch or flash flood watch is in effect for parts of western Wisconsin through early on Wednesday morning. 65 at the low tonight. Best chance of a shower or thunderstorm north and west of Madison. Tomorrow, very mild and humid, near 80 for a high, and a chance for showers and thunderstorms. You can see on Future Track the best chances for showers and storms tonight north and west of Madison. Then we look for just a chance for a shower or storm during the day tomorrow. Tomorrow night, the showers and storms become a little more widespread. Again, the areas west of Madison more targeted, and showers and storms continuing into the day on Wednesday, and that will start to lead to slightly cooler weather. Rainfall amounts, at least across southern Wisconsin, areas east of Madison probably seeing the least amounts of rain. West of Madison, perhaps amounts in excess of 2 or 3 inches and heavier showers and thunderstorms. 7 to 10 day forecast after the rain ends. Look at the temperatures nosedive. Upper 40s for highs Thursday and Friday. Nighttime low temperatures in the low to mid 30s. Frost certainly a possibility. A chilly weekend with maybe a shower on Sunday, and then a slow warm up as we head through next week. As we take a look at first alert traffic, things actually not too bad out there. This is the live view from the DOT camera at Park Street. Traffic moving pretty steadily in both directions. Not seeing any major delays. Maybe a little slowdown eastbound around West Broadway, but otherwise the Beltline moving pretty well in both directions. About a 15 to 16 minute trip between University Avenue and the interstate. That means traffic moving at the posted speed limits. About 28 minutes down to Janesville on I-3990, 17 minutes to Sauk City on US 12, and 20 minutes out to Sun Prairie on US 151. That's your first alert traffic.
All right, thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Gary. Ahead on News Street 5, researchers say there are steps you can take to lower your chance of getting breast cancer. We'll tell you how. That's next at 5.
News
A woman's chance of breast cancer increases with age.
But now researchers say there are steps you can take to lower your risk. Chris Martinez has more.
Researchers have discovered a new link between weight and breast cancer risk. A study in the journal Cancer of more than 60,000 women finds those who lost weight after menopause were less likely to develop invasive breast cancer than women who maintained or gained weight.
The women who lost 5% of body weight over just a 3-year period ended up having a 12% statistically significant reduction in breast cancer incidence.
Study author Dr. Rowan Chlebowski from City of Hope National Medical Center says while it's been known that obesity is a risk factor for older women developing breast cancer, it wasn't known if losing weight could affect risk. About a third of postmenopausal women in the U.S. are obese.
It looks like that once you get obese, there's a lot of body signals that stimulate breast cancer growth. And so the question is, even a little moderate change in diet and moderate weight loss will reduce those signals.
Sarah Barron says she takes cancer prevention seriously.
I am postmenopausal, and I could stand to lose a few pounds, and it's just one more incentive to persevere on that path.
She says it's empowering to be able to do something to impact her chances of getting breast cancer and hopes other women will do the same. Chris Martinez, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Weight gain of more than 5% was not associated with breast cancer risk overall, but those women had a higher risk of triple-negative breast cancer. That type of breast cancer tends to be more serious and aggressive.
Stay with us. We'll have another Check Your Forecast when we return.
Dickie's
Finally at 5, this is cheerleading and gymnastics on a whole different level.
These people are called castellers. 42 teams of them gathered yesterday in Spain to compete in a human tower building competition. This Spanish tradition dates back to the 18th century and takes place during festivals in Catalonia. How much higher are they going to go here?
What could possibly go wrong here?
Yeah. So,
wow.
Especially if it falls. Well, let's take a look at our chances for rain. Right now, it's very mild out there. Temperatures upper 70s, so the air is just loaded with moisture. There are flood watches and flash flood watches in the western parts of our viewing area. Some showers, a few thunderstorms, not too bad so far out to our west. There's a marginal risk of severe weather for tonight, a slight to marginal risk tomorrow. And then after the storms clear out, look at those temperatures drop into the 40s with nighttime lows in the 30s and some frost.
All right, Gary, thank you. Thanks for joining us. We're back in 30 minutes for News 3 at 6.